It's too big for my head. Happy Halloween!
Okay, happy Halloween, everybody, and welcome to my version of a Halloween special. I like to do things a little bit different. And my original thought was to do Serial Killer Smasher Pass, but I thought about that and, well, let's just face it. Serial killers aren't notorious for being attractive. If you're a serial killer, no offense. Don't hunt me down and kill me. Please. Oh God, you can see it my nose. Back away from the camera. So if you're a serial killer, I didn't mean you. No, not you. You're hot. Yeah. So number 1, John Wayne Gacy. Well, I'm mildly biased about this one. 'Cause I don't like clowns. I mean, if it's a creepy clown, I'm down. I'm totally down. But if it's just, a normal, generic, boring clown, no. No, thank you. Not my bag. So, yeah. He killed a lot of people. I mean, he raped, he tortured and killed, I think it's over 33 young men. So, I mean, he gets total marks for, that's a high count. That is a high count. To kill that many and get away with it for that long of a time? Long enough to get that number? Yeah, that's impressive. Most certainly. I mean, compared to other serial killers, impressive. But I find him boring. I mean, and I know that anybody who dresses up like that kind of clown is, I'm not going to have a lot in common with. So yeah, I'm just going away. I'm just leaving. Not out of fear, because, I've got a vagina. I'm pretty good, and come up against him. He's not going to want to kill me. But, I don't want to have to sit down and talk to him. I'm sorry, I don't. Ted Bundy. Yeah, most people know who he is. I also don't find him very interesting. I mean, yeah, he's a rapist and murderer. But, I suppose it's interesting that he pretended to have a broken arm or a broken leg to get co-eds to, help him out. It's a good way to, get people to come your way and help you and trust you and find you harmless. But I've always found him boring. And that whole, oh, Ted Bundy's a good-looking man. Okay, he's a handsome enough man. I mean, generally speaking, he's a handsome dude. But he's got those crazy eyes. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, not a lot of serial killers have them. But some do. And to me, the crazy eyes, that's a dead fucking giveaway. Seriously. That's a dead giveaway. And it's not a sexy look. I'm down for, creepiness being sexy. Willem Dafoe and Streets of Fire. Watch that. Good fucking movie. I mean, a really good movie. And, well, that was my first experience going, he's creepy as shit. Damn. So, even though Ted Bundy is a necrophile as well, which is interesting and fascinating, I don't see a conversation with him being very interesting. Even trying to talk about that, having sex with dead people, I still don't think it's going to be very interesting. I think he'd be kind of a narcissist. I think it would be, he'd try too hard to be charming and it would just be boring. He wouldn't actually, share any interesting information with me. Wouldn't actually get to, investigate the way his mind works. He'd just be, trying to charm me the whole fucking time. So, yeah, I'm leaving. Once again, not out of fear. It'd just be boring. I think it'd be boring. Sorry. Ted Bundy's boring. Okay, next is H.H. Holmes. Yes. You don't know who he is? I suggest at some point in time, if you have any sort of fascination about serial killers, that you look him up. Yeah. Interesting. He was considered, or still is, I suppose, America's first serial killer. Probably isn't. Let's face it. Probably isn't. There's probably been serial killers all throughout history, pre-H.H. Holmes, but he was the first one to, be publicized, let's say. Now, the interesting thing about him is that basically in Chicago, before the World's Fair started, he, massive con man, so he got a bunch of money together conning people and buying property, that he built a huge building that they called the Castle, because it was so big and so impressive for that time frame. Now, the lower levels were just, general storefront property, stores. There was a jewelry store and a few other stores. I forget what the other ones were. But the upper levels he had turned into a hotel. Well, not even turned into. He specifically made the plans for this whole entire building. And he would only let the builders work for a certain period of time, and then he'd get rid of them and get another builder. No, he didn't kill them. He just fired them and got somebody else in to do the work. So that way, nobody knew exactly what everything, meant and how everything interacted with each other. And, I mean, he had rooms where once you go in, you could not get out of. Period of story, you could just not get out of there. He'd have, halls that just went to nothing. And he had, within the hallways, little places where he could basically open up a hatch and drop a body down. And it would go down all the way to the basement, and either... I'm sorry, it's interesting. It's so interesting. It'd go into this, crematorium type of furnace, and the body go bye-bye. I mean, that basement alone was impressive. He had vats of acid. He had torture tables where he'd actually, the rack where they, pull arms and legs, and he just did crazy stuff. And the most unique thing about him, I mean, all that is unique, but he didn't have a certain way of killing people. He didn't have just one. He tried all sorts of things to kill people, and all sorts of things to get rid of the bodies. He even would deflesh them and sell some of the skeletons to doctors' offices and such to use in their practices, and college for their medical students. I mean, he was such a con man that he did that just alone to make money. very fascinating fellow. So, yes, most certainly I would sit down and have a conversation with him, because I think it would be absolutely fascinating. Though, yeah, we're going to do it in a public place, not anywhere near his building. Yes. But yeah, I'd definitely stay and have a sit down with H.H. Holmes. Ed Kemper. Now, he's not as well known as some of these people, but if you have watched or are preparing to watch, just plain old plan to watch at some point in time, the new Netflix show, Mindhunter, you'll know who he is. He is the very first interview that they did. And now, he's not that impressive of a serial killer in all actuality, because he didn't kill that many. But he did kill his grandparents and his mother, which completely understandable because, yeah, they were shitty people. And his mother is basically the reason why he became a serial killer. But, not the most impressive. But seriously, if the interview in that TV show was anything like the actual interview, he's an interesting fellow. He'd be a very interesting person to talk to. Definitely. And geez, I mean, I know in the picture that I'm using, you can't see it, but if you ever saw any of the other pictures of like him next to police officers and such, that man was huge. Massively tall. I mean, towering tall. So, yeah, if he were to come after you, that would be rather intimidating. Definitely intimidating. So, yeah, I think I'd have a sit down and talk to him, especially, like I said, if it was anything like the conversation he had in that show. Up next, Eileen Wuornos. Yes. Well, why I chose her? Well, first off, most serial killers are men. Plain and simple, most of them are. And the small few that are women, number one, a lot of them are nurses. A lot of them are just killing their patients. Now, mind you, that's a horrible thing, but not that interesting. Not that interesting. I've watched shows on it. It's not that interesting. And the rest of them, typically, are in pairings. They are doing these killings with their partner. So, yeah, like I said, that's not allowed in my list. But I figured I had to have a female. And since there is one out there, Eileen Wuornos, and she comes from my state, yeah, gonna use her. Gonna use her indeed. But I don't find her very interesting. I really don't. Because, unfortunately, she does go under the category of she just shot people. I mean, she did do some, some torture. She did do some torture, but not really interesting torture, really. Mostly just shooting people. But the interesting thing about it is that it was her Johns. She's a prostitute, and she killed her Johns. The reason why this is interesting is because a good percentage of serial killers basically just go after prostitutes. To me, that's rather boring and rather rude. I mean, really, seriously, very, very rude. I mean, come on now. You're going after, low-hanging fruit. No, that is not an insult to the prostitutes. This is an insult to them. They're going after easy targets. Completely easy targets. And on top of that, the rudeness of it all is these are typically people who, have already led a pretty bad life. They've already had to deal with some fucking bullshit in their life. And now, they're going to be killed by a serial killer? I'm sorry, that's just not fair. That is not fair. So, so it's cool that Eileen Wuornos is basically turning the tables, and she's killing the Johns rather than it being the other way around. But like I said, I don't find her very interesting. I've seen interviews with her, and I just don't find her interesting. So, yeah, I just leave. I just leave. I mean, she's fucking crazy. The interviews, yeah, she's fucking crazy, but yeah, not the good kind of crazy. Not the interesting kind of crazy, I guess would be the more appropriate thing to say. So yeah, I just walk away. Just walk away. Richard Ramirez. Okay, now. The Night Stalker. Cool name. I like the name, Night Stalker. It works. It works. And he basically just, he stalked, did home invasions, burglaries, and then killed these people. Yeah. I'll give him this. I'll definitely give him this. What he did was definitely, I think, more scary to the general public because of the fact that he did it in their homes. He stalked them, followed them home, and then killed them in their homes. So, yeah, I mean, that, I think, would hit closer to home, fun, to the general public, so they probably were more fearful of that. It would make them feel more like, yeah, it's a possibility that that could happen to me. So that's special. But, yeah, I don't find him very interesting. I'm not quite sure if he was a Satanist, but, he did have, the pentagram on his hand, so maybe he was a Satanist. So if he was a Satanist, then yeah, I might sit down and have a conversation with him. That could be interesting. But on a whole, I don't find him very interesting, and yeah, no coffee for me, thanks. Albert Fish. Now, this one's kind of a dilemma. Because on one hand, he was a child rapist. Yeah, he was a child rapist. So, yeah, that basically kind of says to me, fuck you. I don't want to talk to you. Fuck you. And he was quoted as saying that he'd had one in every state. They didn't know what he meant by that per se. So the possibility is that he had a much higher number than they thought he did of kills. But we don't know. But on the other hand, he was also a cannibal. And I do kind of have a soft spot for cannibals. I find them very fascinating. I really do. And I think that would be a very interesting conversation. So that's where the dilemma lies. On one hand, child rapist, so fuck you. And on the other hand, cannibal. Alright, how about this? I got an idea. How about this? I give him 2 hours. I talk to him about cannibalism for 2 hours. And then after that, I shoot him in the head. Does that work? I think that works. That works for me. Does it work for you? It definitely works for me. Yeah. Alright. Ed Gein. Now, Ed Gein only admitted to 2 kills. And that's not technically a serial killer. A serial killer is somebody who has killed at least 3 people. Then you're deemed a serial killer. But the thing about Ed Gein is, well, he probably killed way more than that. When they actually went to his house and investigated, they found massive amounts of interesting shit. His whole house was decorated with things that he made from human flesh and bone. like a flesh waste paper basket. A flesh waste paper basket. He ate out of a skull bowl. I mean, those are just two things. The list is rather large of what they found. So, yes, I know. He was also a grave digger. So, or a grave robber, I should say, really. So definitely some of that stuff was from, the dead. But the amount alone of stuff that they found, it kind of alludes to them being more than 2 kills. Yeah, I don't think it's all dead people. I mean, it's all dead people, but I don't think it's all people who are already dead. Now, the very, very interesting thing about Ed Gein is that he's basically, we'll put it this way. Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs was partially based on him. Reason why? He actually was building a skin suit of his mother so he could wear it. So yeah, I would definitely sit down and have a conversation with Ed Gein. I think it would be massively interesting. All right. Do you know who that is? Picture I just showed you? You probably don't. Not from the picture alone. But I bet you know who it is. When I tell you, I bet you know who it is. Who do you think it is? Any ideas? Any ideas? Comment down below if you have an idea before I tell you. All right. That's Jeffrey Dahmer. I know, most of the pictures you see of him, he looks, the way you're used to seeing him. With those fucking hideous glasses. Those god-awful glasses. And the bad facial scruff. But, yeah, when he was younger, before all that, he was a handsome dude. He was a good-looking dude. He should have been able to, get guys, no problem. But, he had to put those glasses on. Just ruined his sex life right there. No, I'm just kidding. He would probably still have been a serial killer. I mean, come on now. Come on. Glasses are known. Sex are known. Probably still would be. But here's the thing about Jeffrey Dahmer that I want to express. I don't think he gets enough credit. Yeah. In the world of serial killers, I don't think he gets enough credit. And I think that's a shame. Because, a lot of them, their kills really aren't that interesting. They really aren't that original and unique. But Jeffrey Dahmer, he was original and unique. Yes, he was a cannibal. He had a rather large count. I think it was 17. Let's look at my paper. Yeah, 17. He killed 17 young men. He raped them, he dismembered them, and he cannibalized them. So, he's a cannibal, which we already have established I am partial to. Because they're just so rare. So rare. So it's massively fascinating when you have an interest in psychology. Like myself, that's why. I don't know what you're assuming about me, but that's why. Anyways. But here we go. I think he's a one-of-a-kind serial killer. Because not only was he unique in the sense of his cannibalism, he did something that no other serial killer has ever done that we are aware of, at least. And that is, he actually zombified a boy. Well, a teenage boy. He wasn't too young. I think he was like 17. So, it's not like child rape type thing. But still, he was still just a teenager. But yeah, he researched how to make a zombie and learned exactly where you need to drill into the skull, and he did it. He wanted a sex slave, and he actually created a zombie. That's original, that's unique, that is very rare. Now, he was killed in prison. Yeah, shortly after he got in prison, inmates killed him. And I think that is not a good thing. I think that's a horrible thing. Not because he got killed, because let's face it, serial killers, they need to be killed. I mean, they're never going to be a productive member of society. End of story. And, yeah, if you do believe in the death penalty, they are prime candidates for it, most certainly. But most of the ones on death row, most of the ones that have been put in prison, they don't get killed right away. It's numerous years that they are in prison before they are killed. So you have plenty of time. Psychiatrists have plenty of time to talk to them and research and find out more about the way their brains work. And they didn't get to do that with Jeffrey Dahmer. And that is a massive, massive, unfortunate thing when it comes to psychology and criminology. I think they would have benefited a lot from being able to research him. Because, like I said, he's one of a kind. He is a special kind of serial killer. And so, yeah, most certainly, I'm sitting my ass down and just spending the day talking to him. It would be fascinating. Okay, this last one is different. This last one is technically not a serial killer. They only killed 2 people. But, very interesting case, and something a little special about it that I'll say at the end. So let's show you a picture. Alright. You think I'm crazy? You're going, what the fuck? That was a kid. That was a child. That was Mary Bell. Now, like I said, this is a little different than the rest of them. Technically not a serial killer. She only killed 2. And she's not American. She is British. She was from England. She did this in England. But, very fascinating person and situation. She was about 10 or 11 when she murdered. And who she murdered was 2 boys. One was 3 and one was 4. Yeah, let that sink in. That's pretty crazy. Now, she grew up in a very bad situation. Her mother was a prostitute, father was not around, and her mother would prostitute her out as well. Now think about it. For her background to have caused or gotten her to the point where she became a killer, it had to have been going on for quite some time. But she was only 10 or 11 when she did these killings. So, yeah, her life was pretty fucked and it started very, very, very young. Now, they caught her very soon. I mean, I think it was no more than a week. I think it was less than a week. Because, you know, these are children. She had a friend that was helping her, but she's the one who actually did the killings. And, yeah, so they found her out pretty quickly. And, you know, she got put away. And when she was 20 years old, they let her out into society. And because of how young she was when she did these killings, they gave her anonymity. So nobody could find out who she was after she got out. So she could have, like, lead a normal life, you know? But she did end up having a child. And after she had her child, yeah, eventually reporters found out who she was. And so, you know, even though she had lifelong anonymity, her kid didn't. So they went to court and ended up, they gave both of them anonymity for the rest of their lives. So nobody could find out who they are. Now, she's still alive. I mean, what I read was 2009 she actually became a grandmother. So, yeah, she's probably still alive. Good chance of it. But now, what the most interesting thing, well, not the most interesting, the little special tidbit here at the end that made me fascinated by her, other than the fact of her age and what she did was the fact that that photo I showed you, that's what I looked like when I was a little kid. So when I was that age, that's pretty much what I looked like. Very, very similar, if not the same. So, yeah, when I first saw her, I was like, holy shit. She looks like me. So, that's just a little special thing to share there at the end to make it a little bit more personal for you. Now, I have no idea what you people think of me now. I mean, I don't really care. But, you know, just in case you're wondering, or just in case you're concerned, no, I'm not going to be a serial killer. I've never killed anybody. I never will unless it is, self-defense. You got to do what you got to do. But I have far, far too much empathy to ever become a serial killer. But it's just massively fascinating stuff to me. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it didn't suck ass, because, and I hope this one worked out well. But anyways, have a wonderful Halloween, and I will see you again. Bye.